Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are watching this. Welcome back to the 10th episode of the Since I Was Young podcast for all things Heart or Midlothian. Joining you, as always, is my good self, Ewan, and my dear friend, Alan. Alan, how are you doing on this fine Sunday, sir?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I've had an eventful weekend trolling lots of England supporters on Twitter, which is always nice. But yeah, it's been fun, shall we say.
Yeah, it's been a very eventful last few days in terms of the national team, but let's hope we can keep up that more momentum against Croatia on Tuesday, I believe. Is that right? Is it on Tuesday?
It is, Tuesday night.
So, fingers crossed for the boys there. So,
Absolutely.
But it was a good result on the Friday there. So, happy days. But yes, so for this episode, again, we've not got anything major to bring you. Most of the stuff you'll probably already know yourselves, but we're going to go into a bit more detail about it. So, as you can tell from the title of this episode, it was recently announced that Steven Naismith has finally hung up his boots and decided to retire after a wonderful, the career on the pitch. And like we said before, we'll go into a bit more detail later on about that, because we've actually got a few bits and bobs to actually bring you.
Yeah.
It's just some of it going from kit news to some signings as well, and we'll go a bit into the fixture list as well. So before we kick off things as such, as we always say, this is the Since I Was Young podcast, all things Heart of Midlothian. And if you do want to get involved and into some chat, you can, as always. The link to the Twitter page is in the description, as always. And if you want to get in contact with us both personally as well, you can as well, with Alan's personal Twitter page as well, and my YouTube channel, What Ewan's Doing. Okay, so Alan, I think you're going to kick things off with us with some kit news we just announced just last week or two there.
Yeah, absolutely. The kit's the third kit is finally out. There was a lot of rumours doing the rounds about sponsors as well after Anne Budgie's statement, and I think it was not quite well known, but I think people there was a whisper that it was going to be the Motor Neuron Disease Scotland charity, which obviously we have close ties to now due to club recent events and things. And to be fair, I said it on the last podcast that I didn't think it would be because they called it a commercial sponsor, not a charity one. But the sponsor has been confirmed as Motor Neuron Disease Scotland charity, and it will be financed by Dell Technologies. Now that, I think people have kind of glossed over that because, yeah, exactly. I mean, Dell, that's a worldwide company.
Massive company.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny, I was reading something and there was fans saying, oh, we should get to know how much the sponsor is going to be. We should get to know how much money we're going to get out of it. It's like, the club have never done that before. Like, why would they tell you, oh yeah, Dell are paying millions, whatever? They wouldn't do that, you know? But it's people just wanting to know all the little minute details.
Of course.
So then they released the third kit, which has actually become the fastest selling non-third kit of all time, overtaking that glorious blackout kit that I spoke about again in a recent podcast too.
And I bet that stuck right in your craw hen, didn't it?
I mean, a little bit, but I mean, do you know what? It's a classy kit though. To be fair,
it's lovely though. It is really, really nice. I mean, just from the first sort of look at the kit when you sent me it, I mean, do you think it kind of looks better as it is, or would you think with the sponsor on it as well, would that kind of take away its sort of retro look? Or
I think it would. To be honest, I like it. I like it without the sponsor. I think it looks classy, and it's funny. I didn't actually notice it, but someone on Twitter pointed it out that in the detail of the stripes, there's like a graphic of the Tynecastle like stand, like floodlights and stuff. And I didn't notice that. And then someone on Twitter sent me a picture of it. And yeah, it looks really, really nice. I haven't bought one yet. I might do, but I'm kind of waiting to see what the home shirt looks like, because as part of and I mean, as part of the motor neuron disease sponsor announcement, they said that every home shirt that sells, they'll donate a percentage to charity.
Which, you know.
So that makes me more inclined to buy the home one. But again, if it comes out and I'm not a fan of it, I'll buy the third one and I'll donate something to charity myself, just as like
no. But
rather
like,
do
of
that.
course. Yeah, no, definitely.
What do you think of the kit? I know you're a bit of a football kit connoisseur, shall we say?
Yeah, like it kind of, don't be daft, sir. It's kind of not that it kind of like it's weird because when you sent me, I was a bit like, oh, okay, it's a bit different. Like it's nice. I mean, I know they were trying to replicate the away strip from when was it 94? It was the Assets sort of one, like sort of the black and blue. Obviously, again, it's I think in terms of replicating that kit, I don't think they've done. I don't think it's replicated that kit as well. I think you tend to see like more like sort of kit more in that shirt. But it doesn't take away the fact that it is a beautiful shirt because like, you know, throughout this last sort of 20 years or so, we've not had many sort of third kits as such, but I think this one is absolutely lovely. But much like yourself, I'm more inclined just to see what the home and the away strip looks like as well before I make my decision and see which one I want to actually buy. But yeah, I mean, I would imagine it won't be too long until they announce some sort of kit as well, because like, you know, we're coming to the end of June now, so I would imagine
they said, I'm sure they said on, I can't remember if it was on the website or whatever, but when they launched the third kit, they said the home kits will be coming in a few weeks, so it might even be next week when we get to see it. But yeah, I as I say, I really like it. I think there was a lot of chat on Twitter of people, like you were saying about the remake. It was the 93-94.
Yeah.
And you had a lot of people saying, oh, you know, it's not a remake, it's the wrong shade of blue for the stripes and all this stuff. And I'm like,
yeah, like that I wasn't too bothered about. Like you know, that I wasn't too bothered about. It was just more this, like the case that Hearts said on their like, you know, on their announcement, like, you know, like they had the two strips kind of this side, like sort of by side, and me just thinking, it's not replicated it, but it's still
it's like
at the same time,
it's like just like a reference back to it, you know. And I think Hearts fans were looking for something like that, and there was a lot of whispers about that potentially being what maybe the away kit was going to be. But I really like it. One thing I really like about it is the gold, the badge being gold, and the sponsor, like the kit maker gold as well. I really like that. I think it's really classy. But yeah, no, we'll wait and see what the other ones look like. And I mean, they're Hearts kits. They're going to be classy regardless, aren't they?
Definitely, so definitely.
Then we had the fixture. The fixture list was released as well this week. Last week as we record this. And everybody always looks for the opening day fixture to see what it's going to be. And we've got Celtic. In Castle.
I don't know how I feel about that. I've been, on the one hand, you know, I think, you know, if we're gonna, like, now that we're back, we may as well jump straight into the deep end, like, you know, because obviously, like, you know, I mean, even though Celtic didn't have the best of the campaigns just on the last one, they are still a top team, and obviously with their new was it the coach as well, whose name I'm not going to even attempt to try and say. You know, it's going to be a lot.
Call him Posty.
Posty, that's what we'll call him. It's going to be a really interesting, but I think exciting start, because, like, you know, I think our first 3 home games, it's quite a tall sort of order there from what you said, me, Alan.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? When I first saw the fixtures come out, my first reaction to the Celtic game was the same as yourself, thinking, don't really know about that. But then I had to think about it, and I said it to yourself. I think it's a great time. I think it's a great time to get Celtic.
Absolutely,
I think, because obviously, as you say, this new manager coming in, they've dragged it on for so long to get him in. I think
Yeah,
it was like 100 and something days that they didn't have a manager.
I know. Yeah, I know. Because the Eddie Howe thing just dragged for
Oh,
the donkeys, and then just didn't
ridiculous,
go through.
ridiculous, ridiculous. But then, so they had that. Now this new guy's come in. I don't know when the Celtic pre-season will start, because obviously they'll have players. I mean, they might have started already. I don't know. I know we have, but that's because we've got Premier Sports Cup games or Betfred Cup games, or whatever we're calling it these days. Yeah, great. So, but I don't know when the Celtic pre-season starts, and they've got quite a few players at the Euros with Scotland, obviously, like
True,
McGregor
true.
and that. So Forrest and McGregor and maybe one or two others. I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but I just think that the new manager will take time to get settled in and take time to get his ideas across to the players. And
Mm.
I think obviously it's a massive, massive start to the season for Hearts. Like
Oh yeah,
Robbie Nielsen knows that he's got to get results early. Like, and I'm not even factoring in the Premier Sports Cup to that, because the group that we've been given in that, we should win them all. Like that
yeah.
should be straight up, straight wins. There's no excuse if he doesn't
Mm.
win all of them. And I think, like you said, the first three home games of the season, sorry, pardon me, being Celtic, Aberdeen, and Hibs, those are massive, massive games. Like
Definitely.
huge games. And I mean, even Aberdeen as well, with Stephen Glass being there. That's an
Aye, that's going to be
interesting
a
one.
bit of a yeah. It's going to be a bit of a strange one because obviously
Hmm.
Aberdeen's sort of campaign throughout, like even when they were still under the Guinness and now under Stephen Glass, and obviously Scott Brown as well will be there as well. So it's going to be a very interesting like sort of year for Aberdeen as well, because
Mm-hmm.
you don't kind of know what to expect from them, and
No,
they've finished in the top four for the last what like
it's
five
been a while.
six 8 years
Yeah,
or something.
it's been a
And
while.
then
It's been a while.
aye, and then I mean, just to touch on the Celtic game again, I'm not going to make any sort of like was it qualms about it. I expect us to win. I would like because
Yeah,
if we don't have a mentality to go out and win the actual game, how are we going to do it against the smaller teams?
yeah,
Like, you know what I
yeah.
mean?
And I mean,
We've got to have that mindset. Look,
uh-huh.
we can get Celtic on the back foot, because
Hmm.
like you said as well, with their new head coach only just coming in now, I don't think personally, I don't think he's going to have enough time to
No.
get this group of players that he wants to settle in as
Hmm.
quickly as I'm going to like assume that he wants it to. And plus, as well, I've also heard rumors as well that Onson Edouard will probably be on his way to Leicester within the next
Yeah,
few weeks as well. So obviously, as a strike force, they've not really got much.
it's
So
I think, like, without turning this into some sort of Celtic
yeah,
podcast,
no, no, no.
I think it's a big job at Celtic, and
Hmm.
I don't know this manager. Like, I've never heard of him before in
I've
my life.
never heard of him either. No.
But I know a friend of mine who lives in Australia, and he was speaking about him, and he said, he's got something, because he was the Australian national manager a
Right.
wee
Okay.
while ago, and even Ryan McGowan was talking about him, saying, he's the sort of manager that won't take any shit, and maybe Celtic need that right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
No. No. Fair play.
it's one of those, with it being an unknown appointment, it'll either go ridiculously well or be an absolute disaster.
Possibly.
And
Yeah.
if we, it's difficult. I mean, it's the same whenever a promoted team goes up. There's always that bounce of, right, we're back. This is where we should be, and it's positive. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully we'll experience that. But I'm just gutted because, like I said to you, the first three home games of the season being Celtic, Hibs, and Aberdeen, and I'm hoping and praying that fans will be in some capacity, because
Like, yeah.
that would be just unbelievable. I mean, I saw an article the other day, and I didn't actually link it to you, but Neil Doncaster, everyone's favourite Daddy Pig impersonator, is doing the rounds of the champions, because for the league flag
Mm-hmm.
unfurling. So he was saying Tynecastle and Ibrox, he's going to be going to both those games, and for that and that only, I want fans to be in the stadium.
He'll not be welcome, no.
he won't get out. He won't get in.
He won't
and
be
if he
welcome,
gets in,
no.
he won't get out. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's one of those. He's finally found a sponsor for the league as well, which is nice. Second-hand car sales website, Cinch Premier League.
every year, it's just slowly going downhill. Like seriously, like you know what I mean? But
It's ridiculous. But so I mean, just to summarise it, I'm actually very happy with the first 5 games of the season. We're we're away to St Mirren, I think, and away to Dundee United as well. I could be wrong on that. It's either Dundee or Dundee United, and that's not bad either because they've got a new manager as well. So it'll be interesting.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I mean, as soon as you text me what the first 3 home games were, I said to you straight away, and I'm sure that every Hearts fan who wants to get back, like, into the stadium, like, as well. Hibs is where it said they're going to be. If we can get tickets, and also if they do, like, allow fans back in, that's going to, like, that's going to be an occasion. That's going to be marked down saying, right, I'm going to take like 5, days off, but going to be like, absolutely.
You'll never see me again.
You'll never see me again. No, but if they do allow fans back in some sort of smaller capacity, which I'm assuming that they're probably going to actually do, because obviously for for the, I mean, I guess if they've done it for the Scotland game, just past there against the Czech Republic, and also down at Wembley as well, I mean, I'm going to take it as a good sign.
Yeah.
So far, it's like, you know what I mean?
And I think they had some rugby on at Murrayfield as well, and I think there was about maybe 6,000 or 7,000 at that. There might have even been more than that, but they did it based off of like your postcode, like where you live in proximity to the stadium, and like local postcodes got to go. But because obviously it makes it easier for the whole track and tracing thing. If they're all within the local area and they don't have far to travel, etc. But yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping that some fans can get in, and I know that we've got some pre-season friendlies coming up in the next couple of weeks against like lower league Scotland sides, and Berwick Rangers are selling tickets for the game. I don't know how many they are, but they're obviously, I think, because it's like an open air stadium and you don't have to go inside at all. I think it's easier, it's easier to have, because it's like an outdoor event, so you can have X amount of people. But yeah, I can't wait for fans to be back in a football stadium.
It's going to be buzzing.
Mate, unbelievable.
I cannot wait, but hopefully, like we said beforehand, we'll have a bit more news about that as well in time. So yeah, we can maybe go into our, well, I say first, like official signing, but we could say it's our first official signing that we actually like. So yeah, we it was what, 2 or 1 week ago, Alan, was that right?
What, for the signing? Not the name, even though everybody already knows who it is.
Aye. Build it up. Build it up.
It was, let me just double check. It was, where are we? It was on the 17th. So that was Thursday, Friday, one of those two. I've worked a long stretch of days in a row. So Thursday. Thursday the 17th.
And can you announce who that player is, Alan?
So that man is everyone's favourite winger from last year that only played about 10 games. Do you know Josh Janelli? I was absolutely delighted. Absolutely delighted.
Definitely, man.
They announced it as well that it's a 2-year deal, which I think is very smart, to be honest. I think. When you look at him last year, he was electric in the games that he played, and then suffered that really bad injury. Came back from it, then got another couple of kicks and knocks, and then was out again. So 2-year deal makes sense in the sense of, if this coming season, if he proves his fitness and he proves, that he's ready to go, we've got a hell of a player. We've got hell of a player. And we know that. 100%. But if it doesn't work, and if he is going to get little niggles and little knocks and injuries, then you go, well, 2-year deal, maybe at the end of next season, if it's not worked, just move him on, or it'll probably be quite a lot of it will probably be dependent on like how many games he plays. I think they'll probably put that in there, like some sort of clauses or bonuses, I would think. But yeah, it's nice to see the club doing some sensible contract negotiations rather than like Demure 4-year deal. And
he's still there. He's still there. I could not get my head around that. He's still there. But not played a game for like what 2 years or something, and he's still fucking there.
It is ridiculous. I mean, without going on a tangent, 4 years. But the problem was that when we signed him, he'd played in, I think it was Cardiff's promotion season.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is a good player. What the hell's happened to him? I don't know whether it's Scottish football or what, but he's just been non-existent. But anyway, back to Janelli. He posted the club posted it up on their social media. It was an interview with him after he signed, and it was the typical, scarf above the head pictures at Tynecastle, and he was wearing the third kit and all that. And I know this because I followed him on social media last season, but he wears the number 30 as a tribute to a former, I don't know if it's a former teammate or just a friend, Christopher Mbulu, who died tragically. He wore the number 30 for his last professional club before he passed away. So it's Janelli kind of took that number on as like a tribute to him, which is a really classy gesture.
Yeah, definitely.
It just shows, he's got a lot about him, and I really like Janelli. And he was speaking at the interview that they did, and he was saying, the fans, I've not even met them yet. Like Hearts fans, he's like, I've not even met them yet in Tynecastle, but I can't wait. And he's like, they've given me so much love and support on social medias and stuff. And yeah, I think he gets it. He understands what it's about. And he was even talking on Twitter the other day, he was speaking to John Cahoon. Now, that's a Hearts icon. That's a Hearts legend who's on Twitter. And he says, I think he said something along the lines of, all you need to do is give 100% for Hearts and the fans will love you. Absolutely, and he replied, and he replied to him, and he's like, yeah, that's what I want to do, and that's what I plan to do. And I'm like, please let him stay fit, because if he stays fit, he is a player, and he will be a player in the Premier League.
100%. I mean, that is kind of a nice segue to a few questions that I was going to ask you about him, Alan. So, providing and in theory, if we stick to the formation that we played, like sort of just at the end of the last was it a campaign with 5 at the back, 2, 1, and then 2 up front. Mm-hmm. Where do you put him? I've got my own sort of opinion on where to put him, but where would you put him personally if you were in charge? And in that sort of setup as well.
See, that sort of setup, I see it as like a 3-4-3 type scenario.
Right.
But if you're looking for 2 up front with a number 10 behind them, I'd play Janelli up front. Genuinely.
Thank you.
I'd play him up front.
Literally what I was thinking. Yeah, because because obviously if you're going to have, let's say for example, if you look at the team playing in the last home game, for example, you had Kai Stevens and Henderson up front with the boys just sitting behind them. If you've got both Mackay Steven and Janelli, well, let's say for example up front, obviously during phases of the play, them two can kind of sort of sway off to the other side to actually let the Boise through to actually create chances, etc. But equally as well, I don't think I'm saying it in the sense that Janelli will go straight in, which if he's fit, I probably would, but I don't think nor Janelli or Mackay Stevens are going to have it easy in the sense that their roles are safe in the sense, because I think Henderson improved a lot throughout last season, and I think as time goes on, I think he's going to get better, and I think I think Robbie does like him a lot, So I don't think it's going to be a done deal in the sense that like them two, like they will be playing every single week. No.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think you're right. Plus, I think as well, we will probably bring in another winger or maybe even two, because you think about it, like we spoke about the players that have been released. He let go of Elliot Freer and he let go of who else? I mean, AD White was running up and down that left wing half the time anyway. So that's another wider player that's not there anymore. There was Freer, there was Roberts, that was the other one I was thinking of. So we are a little bit light on wingers. So it wouldn't surprise me if he goes out and brings another one in. But if we first game of the season start Gary Mackay-Steven, Liam Boyce, and Josh Janelli up front in a three, that's a tasty front three. That is a
I'll be all right with that.
front three.
I'll be all right with that.
And,
yeah, but that's as well because because he's got to think about as well, with when we talk about as well with Naismith as well, retired and as well, he's obviously going to want to have maybe somebody else to compete for that sort of striker's role as well, because obviously we'll still have Nan as well. But again, I've said quite a few times that I don't think he's going to be the main sort of focal point. I don't think he's going to be a starter every single week. I think he's more the kind of player you kind of bring on if you need something a bit more sort of physical and maybe a bit more height.
Yeah. I think with Nan, I think Nanduli is, as you say, he's a big physical boy. I don't think he's an out and out striker. I think he's much more of like a link up guy and hold the ball up for people and play people in. But yeah, I mean, I certainly wouldn't complain if the front three was Janelli, Mackay-Steven, and Boyce. I think I've said it many, many times about Liam Boyce, the intelligence that guy has. He would be dropping deep and letting them play, because Gary Mackay-Steven maybe doesn't have the pace that he used to have, but the ball control that he has. And in the Premier League, both he and Janelli will get more time on the ball. They'll get more space. Definitely, because pitches are bigger. You don't have teams sitting in defending against you like we had in the Championship and chopping at your ankles constantly. And that's why I hope, I believe that he will, but it's maybe hope more than anything else, that Janelli goes on and has a brilliant season. And I hope Mackay-Steven does as well, because, we've both been quite critical of him. And I think he'll have been critical of himself last season as well. So he'll want to prove that, he's still a Premier League quality player. And that can only bode well. But I do think there'll be a couple, maybe a good few new players coming in over the next couple of weeks, because they're back in pre-season now. So they're, getting fitness and moving on. And then we've got the cup games in July. So it's not that far away.
Definitely not, Alan. Well, before we do move on to the main topic, here's one that I've just thought off the top of my head, which we will put onto the Twitter page as well. We just said there that if we had was it Ed the Boyce, Mackay-Stevens and Janelli as our front three, we would be quite happy with that. But I think we'd be quite interested to know is what your front three would be if you were in charge. If it would be that, if you would have Henderson in there, or if you would revert to like a 2 or a 1. Would we want to hear it? So we'd love to hear your opinions on that, and we'll put we post about that on Twitter shortly after we've put this up live on YouTube. So yeah, I think we can move on to the main topic if you're up for that, mate.
Absolutely, sir. Fire away.
So yeah, it was announced. Again, I'm crap with sort of exact days and dates, but it was announced at some point. Recently,
some point in the last 7 days.
Then there, that our captain Steven Naismith has retired. It was kind of in not in the sense that I wasn't concerned about it, but if he did do what he has done and retired, that's absolutely fine. But if he did want to do one more season, I would have been cool, that's absolutely sound. But he has decided to call it a day. And just before we go into the sort of the details of him, like, you know, the amount of clubs, like, you know, that you searched for Alan and did all that info, like, you know, work for him. He's played for a lot of good clubs, like, you know, especially from starting at a young age for the Kilmarnock, and then, you know, to Rangers, and then was it the going on to play in the Premier League? Like, you know what I mean? That's not a bad restart, not at all.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's a really, you know, big personality and a really big character within the team. You saw it when he announced his retirement. Like, all the players at Hearts were sending him messages, and you know, it's a big player to lose from the pitch, but obviously him taking up this newly created role for him, which is I can't remember the exact title of it, but it's like player development manager or something along the lines of that. And
you've not wrote it down in your notes, mate, for God's sake.
You can't get the staff, can you? I'm sure it's like player development manager or something like that. Anyway, he's basically looking after the young players at Hearts and giving them advice and coaching and all that sort of stuff. But he said as well he's going to be doing some coaching with the first team as well, which is a bonus for him.
Definitely, yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm pleased that he's staying around the club, because that personality and that experience and that knowledge, to pass that on to the young players. Say you're 16, 17, or maybe even younger than that, and you're getting coached by a player who's played 50 caps for his country, you know, that experience is invaluable.
Absolutely, because like we said there, like, you know, when he got his move down to Everton, like, you know, he's played against some of the best in the world, in the world.
Yeah, he is.
Like, you know, and to have that, like you said, as well, to still, like, you know, if he does do a bit of work with the first team, and, you know, if at some point, if he is on the, like, you know, in the dugout, like, you know, for like some games, like, as well, to have that sort of the presence there, because, like, you know, we have said that throughout all of last season. I think even though he didn't play a lot throughout last the campaign, I think it was still quite important at the same time to still have him there. Like, you know, to like sort of sort of, like, you know, was it the players up to get players, like, you know, was it the going? So I think the fact that he's still going to be around, I think, is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just take you right back to the start. He obviously came through at Kilmarnock, scored over 100 goals. No, he didn't. He made over 100 appearances. Sorry, I'm doing him a bit too dirty there. He made over 100 appearances for Kilmarnock from 2003 till 2007. Scored his first professional goal against Hearts in a 2-2 draw in 2005.
There you go. It is just becomes full circle.
Yeah, scored his first professional goal against Hearts, and then scores his last goal for Hearts. So can't grumble at that. Then, as you say, he signed for Rangers in 2007 for around about £2 million, which, that's a decent amount of money back then for Rangers to be thrown at a young Scottish player.
Like, you know, especially for throwing it at a team that's in Scotland as well, because, like, you know, you kind of expect that from like, you know, down south, but here back then, especially, like, you know, it's massive.
I think that was probably around about the time that the Old Firm were just hoovering up all of Scotland's good young players, and just
Rangers were
to make sure that they didn't have them. Yeah,
absolutely, because especially around the time, because that was when Walter Smith was in charge, and he literally had the full Scotland team. Literally.
Exactly. Then he went on during his time at Rangers, made 98 appearances and scored 28 goals, was there from 2007 until 2012.
Which when David...
Yeah, it's all right. And then he had quite a bad injury in 2008 that ended his season. So that kind of cut him short right at the start of his Rangers career. Then in 2012, he signed for Everton for a free transfer after he walked away from Rangers following their liquidation. And he was not willing to transfer his contract to Glasgow Rangers PLC and wasn't willing to go and play in the bottom tier of Scottish football. So he walked away.
Fair enough. Like, you know what I mean? You know, you
Yeah,
can't begrudge him of that, you know?
yeah. I saw a quote from him probably last week after he announced his retirement, and he said that he was poorly advised on that, but he regrets the way that it ended, but he doesn't regret leaving Rangers. I think when you look back at the career that he had after Rangers, you can probably understand why. But
Mm-hmm.
I think he was no. It doesn't. It sounded like he wasn't given the right kind of information about what was going to happen to Rangers, because it really became a big thing with Naismith
Oh,
leaving, and
100%, yeah.
Everton had to get, because it was due to like dual registrations of still being registered for Rangers, but not wanting to move his contract somewhere else. And there was a whole load of complicated stuff. So I don't think he was well advised on that. But I mean, when you go down to England and you have the career that he had, it's obviously worked out for him.
Definitely, yeah.
Signed for Everton, as I say, 2012, and scored. Funnily enough, he scored the last goal of the David Moyes era at Everton in a 2-1 loss to Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
Another career highlight. He seemed to like playing against Chelsea.
Definitely, yeah, I do agree.
Yeah. And then another career highlight that they picked out of his Everton career was the perfect hat trick that he scored against Chelsea in the 2015-16 season. Obviously, perfect hat trick being left foot, right foot header. Yeah, it's a cracking way to go. If you're going to score a hat trick, you might as well do it that
100%.
way.
100%.
Yeah, and then I don't know whether it was an injury or whatever happened, but I think he maybe fell out of favour under Roberto Martinez, because Martinez came in after David Moyes, played him in different positions and played him up front, and he scored a few goals. I think that was maybe his most prolific season for Everton when he was played up front. But a lot of his appearances were off the bench, so he wasn't getting the starts that he obviously wanted. Then signed for Norwich in January 2016. I think it was on a free contract as well, to be honest. I think at that point Everton maybe let him go.
Mm-hmm.
He then scored on his debut in a 5-4 loss against Liverpool. But again, I love scoring goals against the big teams, Disney Naismith.
Definitely, boy.
Yeah, and then, as is the common thing with Steven Naismith, at that point he picked up another serious injury in 2017.
Very
An ankle.
injury prone, aren't you, mate? Very injury
Yeah,
prone.
it just seemed to be the way, isn't it? And it's
Yeah.
almost like he didn't just get little injuries. It's like
Like
6 months
massive,
out,
I know,
years,
yeah.
So it was an ankle ligament injury in 2017 with Norwich. They then made him available for loan in 2018. And that's when, that was the January of the 2018 when he joined Hearts for the remainder of that season. Scored a fair few goals during that time, became a key player, but lots of people will say that his best moment was standing on Scott Brown at a full house at Tynecastle, and yeah, so that was nice.
Yeah, like, just before you carry on, Alan, I mean, like, even though he was kind of coming to the end of his, was it career, like at that point 2018, so he would have been like what, 31, 32, around that
probably
age.
probably around about that.
So even though, like he said, like was it at the best days were kind of, was it at the behind him, just to even get him in a loan, that was still a huge, massive signing. Like, because like you just said there, like, the fact that he'd went down south, done well for both Everton and Norwich as well. Like, that was still a massive thing. Like, even when like I don't know if it was as big, but even when Lafferty like sort of became, to have them two as like as your strikers, like, because massive. Of course I'm sure that they were at Rangers at the same time back when, like, as well. So to have them as your two sort of strikers was massive. It was absolutely massive.
Yeah, and I mean, during that loan spell, he scored 14 goals from January to the end of the season. So you can't grumble at that.
Yeah, not at all.
Then he obviously signed on a permanent deal the season after, and to date made 37 appearances and scored 10 goals. He was given the captaincy by Daniel Stendel after Christoph Berra was put in the bin by Daniel Stendel. I think back in 2019 when he signed on a permanent deal, it was a 4-year deal he was given. And I think
it was a strange one with that, wasn't it, as well? But again, yeah.
but I think it's probably been 4 years with a view to then being a coach, which is obviously the way that it's
Aye.
gone. But yeah, appointed the captain in 2020 January by Daniel Stendhal. Stayed with the club despite relegation. Carried on, and last season, you said it yourself. Maybe didn't get the goals that he wanted. He still scored a fair few, but
And I'm pretty sure he still scored a hat-trick as well last season as well. So there you go.
And he's. I think the thing that I'll always say about Steven Naismith, he's so much more than just the player on the pitch, and I really appreciate that. I think the personality, the way that he is, and his influence on the squad and the young players is huge. Having a player like that. And as I said earlier, throughout his career, he's played for his country 51 times and scored 10 goals, which can't be sniffed at.
Cannot.
So yeah, no, it's going to be strange to not see him on the pitch for Hearts next season, but he made the decision himself. He said, it's time to call it a day, and the club have obviously created on this role that he can still be influential. So yeah, definitely. At the age of 34, Steven Naismith hangs up his boots, and we thank him for his service, I'm sure.
Definitely, Alan. Well, like you just said there, even though he's still going to be around, at the club, from me, as well. Thank you very much, mate. You've created some absolute banging nights and banging days as well. So thank you very much. And as his last act, as a Hearts player as well, to lift the championship trophy in such sarcastic fashion, absolutely brilliant, mate. So from us at the Since I Was Young podcast, thank you very much, Steven Naismith. But we also equally as well will love to see you around in the dugout as well at some point. I mean, to be honest, it would be a great opportunity to have him there at the first game of the season, against Celtic. You know what I mean? It'd be brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, Scott Brown's not going to be there for him to stand on, though, so it might not have the same appeal, to be honest. We might have to save him for the Aberdeen game.
Literally what I was about to say. Absolutely fantastic idea. So yeah, I think we've pretty much said there is to say about our the captain. It'll be interesting.
Just before we wrap up. Sorry to jump in, but just before we wrap up, I've got a question for you.
Go on. Yes, I love it.
Now, it might be quite easy, but who's your next captain and vice captain now that Naismith's away?
See, you say it's an easy one, but because there's quite a few candidates just literally off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
I've already made my suggestions on Twitter. I've already said who I would say. So I want to know if you say the same.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna just literally just scan through the team quickly. Mm-hmm. So Craig Gordon is the obvious choice. But
yeah,
but most likely he'll get it. But I'll just go through the other players. So you've got Smith as a potential candidate for vice.
Mm-hmm.
You've got John Suter, who's a potential candidate for vice as well.
Mm-hmm.
Andy Halliday, of course,
of course.
For the captain and vice captain, you know what I mean?
Because you're going to build him a statue.
He can have literally the captain's armband and the vice captain's armband. No, so I think from that, I feel I would say Boyce, I would throw him in there as well, but at the same time, I think Boyce, I don't think he's very vocal when he's on the pitch. I think he tends to be a bit more quieter. So yeah, if I had putting Craig Gordon aside, if I wanted to choose a captain on a serious note, I would choose Suter. I don't know why. I would choose Suter as my captain and probably Craig Gordon as my vice if I had the choice. But most likely it's probably going to be Craig Gordon as the captain, and my gut feeling was he'll probably choose Smith as his vice. I would probably say.
You think? I think it's.
I wouldn't want it to. Not that I've got. like and the thing against against Smith, but I would choose probably John Suter as my vice, just so he can get that experience of of like a captain. But I think it's probably going to be Gordon and then as vice Smith.
Yeah, see, I mean, I actually put it up on Twitter just after Naismith had announced his retirement. I said, well, next captain's guaranteed to be Craig Gordon because he's the vice just now. And he had the armband for the last few games of the season when Naismith didn't play. And I said John Suter will be the vice captain, just because I think it might just be like an old-fashioned thing, but I like when the captain is as far back on the pitch as possible.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Yeah,
being able to see everything, and I know like some teams have obviously got their strikers, the captain. Obviously Naismith when he was the captain, because they're further up the pitch and they can be involved all over the place, but Craig Gordon is a natural leader. He's 38, 39 now. He might only have another year or two left in him. Who knows? So I think it would be a good gesture to give it to Craig on a full-time basis as a captain.
100%. Yeah.
John Suter, vice captain, because I think depending on how he has, like what he does next season, he's got to be fit and ready to go. And an on-form fit John Suter gets into a Scotland squad without 100%, question.
100%. I think sorry, just to jump in there, Alan. I think
no, jump in.
If he had come back, maybe even at a stretch to get maybe half of the season in, just had gone by there, I think he would have been in.
Yeah, it wouldn't have surprised me. But I really, really rate John Suter very highly, and I think he's one of those players that we've put a lot into, and you just think, right, you just want him to stay fit and you just want him to stay available, because as we saw at the tail end of last season, when he's fit and available and playing, he's a hell of a player. But yeah, I think it will be Craig Gordon as captain and John Suter as a vice captain. But like you said, Michael Smith is a good shout. That was a Liam Boyce Michael Smith combination. Michael Smith and Boyce will be involved as captains as well, depending on who's fit, etc.
Definitely, Alan. Definitely. Well, again, we will. Hopefully, Hearts will make some sort of announcement at some point soon, and we'll see who will be unveiled officially as our club captain for the new season ahead. So I think that's all there is to cover as far as I'm aware, Alan. Nice one, mate. But again, it was a very interesting subject to talk about as well, and most likely we will talk about it in the near sort of future episodes as always as well. But as always, guys, thank you very much for watching the episode 10 of the Since I Was Young podcast for all things Heart of Midlothian. Once again, we're going to put up a post about who we want to actually know who your front three would be for the upcoming season. So we would love to hear your thoughts and your feedback on that. And as always as well, if you just want to get in contact in general, you can go to our Twitter page, which as always is in the description and on screen as well, which you'll see just now. And if you want to get in contact with Alan, you can. His personal Twitter page is there, and my YouTube channel, What Ewan's Doing. But as always, thank you very much, Alan, for joining my good self today, mate.
Yeah, no, always a pleasure, sir, as always. It's just nice to have some club news to talk about. I mean, the international football's there, but nothing beats Hearts, does it?
No, not at all, sir. Not so. Don't be daft. Don't be daft. But yeah, obviously, if we have more news as well, we'll do another episode on that, and we'll bring you more content from us as always very soon. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and take care. Bye for now.